Welcome everyone to Cheese in Depth. I'm Michael Landis, and today we're really fortunate to be able to have as our guest today Oliver Turner from the Virginia Chutney and Turner Foods, and also the Preservation Society, which is really cool. I've been using their products for years, and it's really going to be interesting to be able to hear from him on some of the intricacies and pairings and things that we do with them. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. So I'm going to get out of here and turn it over to Oliver. Oliver.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah, I'm glad to be here too. It's a nice way of spending some time. Yeah, Cheese in Depth. Now, of course, my name's Oliver. This is a family business that's Turner Foods. But really, the brands that you might know us by is Virginia Chutney, and then the Preservation Society. We like to grandly call ourselves the Cheese Compliment Company. So we don't make cheeses. We don't intend to. That's not our wheelhouse, but we like to just make things that go on cheeses and sort of complement them. We're not the star of the show. We're not, we don't want to overwhelm the cheese, but we think that it's nice to have, a little sweetness sort of adds it, just changes it. It's different. We started off, my mother had the good idea of saying, what should we do? My family had always done different things, different entrepreneurial efforts, but my parents were from England originally. My mother was born in Africa, East Africa, where there are some chutney influences there, but my parents met in the Caribbean, where they had a little restaurant in Marieke Bay, St. Lucia. And they had my brother and I, who were born in Barbados and in St. Lucia. And we sort of enjoyed chutneys before then, but we really got into them there. Of course, mango chutneys. And then we had the good sense to move to Virginia. And we've been here ever since. Right now we're in Flint Hill. This is the Piedmont area. So it's about an hour outside of Washington, D.C., a little bit to the south, sort of in the Blue Ridge foothills. And so, of course, my mother was taking, she actually wanted to be a teacher, and she needed to get certification, realized she had to get a degree to be a teacher in Virginia. And so she got a degree in anthropology, and one of the courses that she took was Foodways Anthropology, the anthropology of food, and it's really interesting. And she discovered that Virginia and the American South had a rich history of chutney making. She said, wow, well, why the heck are we people importing chutney from England or from India? Well, when there is a rich history. She read books by Edna Lewis, and just sort of researched it about, and then said, hey, we've been making it ourselves. Let's make a little business of this. It's silly to import it. And so that's how that worked. That's we call ourselves the Virginia Chutney Company. That was our focus. And so we started off doing little direct to consumer shows, but just the idea of chutney on cheese, mangoes, cranberries, things like that. And I'll talk a little bit, if you would, about what is chutney. A lot of people ask us that. It depends on who you are, where you're from, what you're using it on. But in India, where the word chutney first became from the Hindi word chatney, which means for licking, kind of like KFC, finger licking good. And then the English culture interacted with them there, and also moved to the Caribbean, where there was a lot of sugar production. And the definition that I look at it is a savory jam. So you could, but you wouldn't really want to have it on pancakes, but think of savory. So what does that mean? So fruit, and then savory aspects like vinegar or mustard seed and onions. And it's that nice mixture of sweet and savory, and the sourness from vinegar, which gives it that sort of well-rounded taste. And of course, makes it a preserve. It lasts forever, indefinitely, and it still tastes good. It just mellows a little bit. And it's just sort of chunky. Some people think it's a chunky thing, but there's debate about that. But basically, a savory fruit jam. And they go particularly well on cheeses and charcuterie and things like that. Um, Again, I can't really see the slide anymore, but let's not worry about that. We first made chutneys. Mango chutney, as you see here. It's a classic chutney, the quintessential, we like to say. Major Gray's mango chutney. Who's Major Gray? Well, there he is right there. That's our artist rendering of Major Gray. History, I think we suspect that he actually wasn't a real character. He sort of be part of the English Raj in India. I think he might have been originally hundreds of years ago, 150 years ago when it started, a sort of play on Earl Grey tea. It's kind of the same thing, Earl Grey tea, Major Gray. An apocryphal character, and it's just a style of mango chutney, which we use. So we put Major Gray. And again, mangoes, vinegar, ginger, lots of ginger to give it some bite, raisins, lime juice, garlic, and cloves and cinnamon is the way we do it. But everyone makes their chutneys differently. We got to Whole Foods, was our first big customer. One of our rules is we don't use any artificial preservatives. We do it the traditional way. And yeah, we were lucky enough to get into the cheese department, and that's how we've always enjoyed it as a family. Just cheddar cheese sandwiches with chutney was our go-to. I went to school all the time, and with cheddar cheese and chutney sandwiches. And I got made fun of. They didn't understand it. That the kids didn't have the palate for it at the time, and they didn't get it. They didn't understand what the big hairy chunks of mango were. They didn't. Now, of course, it's probably pretty popular for hipster kids to have chutney lunches. Who knows? Anyway, then Whole Foods one time asked me to make a pepper jelly, a natural pepper jelly, all natural. And we'd been playing around with that anyway. So yeah, we knocked it out, and it's now by far our #1 seller. And we made a different, because pepper jelly, it's the Preservation Society, which you see there. The history, it's a little joke, but basically it's like a group of aficionados that believed in the traditional art of making preserves and pickles and jams and jellies. And since the Preservation Society is, of course, too silly, we call ourselves the Preservation Society. That's sort of the history of what we do, and we've basically been making things in that space. So fig spread, I love our fig spread. My daughter, sadly, she's 2, and she can't take the chutney. It's too much vinegar for her, but she loves the fig spread. She can eat that all day. Yeah, we're, again, all natural. We have our own cannery here in Virginia. We also have an SQF place for other products too. And again, just put it in brie. It's pretty darn good. BPA-free container. We'll talk about that. But yeah, gluten-free, fat-free, no preservatives. Of course, it's pretty easy to do that. Well, that's what jams are like, isn't it? There's no need to put gluten-free. That being said, I don't know. We choose special distilled vinegar. We choose apple cider vinegar. We don't use malt vinegar because we want to be gluten-free. And yeah, we make all manners of jellies. Yeah, we've been growing. I mean, it's funny to think we are a small little family business. My mother now, she does it. My wife joined the company last year. We've got a nice little crew here. Yeah, there we are. That's our Virginia Chutney building. It was an old dressmaking factory until NAFTA happened. And NAFTA, all the jobs rushed out of the country. And now we have that. We have a series of 150-gallon kettles, steam-jacketed kettles, small little bottling line. And it's amazing how much chutney you can crank out when the team's rocking. And our team is great. We're all small, I think about 11 people right now. And they work we work when it's busier. Sometimes it's busier than other times. But it's been great. And I've got a good artist in New York. And there we go.
When you were talking about the chutneys and jams and the difference between them, I think that a lot of people do have questions about the chutneys and jams and being able to have, utilizing them properly. Where you said use the chutneys with a cheddar sandwich. So that's kind of unique, and obviously you found that out when you were there as well. So,
Yeah, that's a good point. And, I think, on one hand, it's funny talking to consumers and people, how do I use this? Well, I always like to say, you're the chef, you whatever, if it tastes good, you go for it. But I do give guidance. I say, the savory elements of, onion or vinegar, I wouldn't quite put it in a breakfast toast, me personally, but a lot of people do. It's just, it balances the creaminess, the tang of the ginger and the vinegar and the sweetness. It just balances with that things that are creamy or salty. Yeah, which cheese, of course, is. Back to definitions, people think that chutney means it has to be chunky. Again, I don't think that's true. What is a fruit? I can get pretty silly. We make a rhubarb chutney every once in a while. It's a specialty thing. Rhubarb, it's a vegetable, but it tastes like a fruit. So is it a chutney or is it a relish? Again, I define relish as being more of a vegetables, vinegar, sugar, and spices. Chutneys. And what's a preserve? Well, gosh, I believe that a preserve is a broader term to describe chutneys, relishes, jams, jellies. I think preserves is the broadest definition. Spread, that's an interesting word, isn't it? I think about these things all the time, Michael. It is weird. What do I do? People like that. My friends don't know what I do. Well, I think about these definitions quite a bit. Is it a spread? Is it a dip? Spread's pretty broad. Jelly versus jam. I think jellies suggest the juice or a strained juice, or basically a gellify when you'd add pectin or a gelling agent. Whereas a jam, usually it's just a reduction of chunky fruits. We do that too. Yeah, a word about pectin. Does anyone, we talk a lot about pectin. We use a special OB pectin mix that allows for the suspension of solids. So basically, if you're doing it at home, you might have tried. Everyone, it's fun. You should all try making these things at home. It's not that hard, and you can't mess up too badly, but it does take some time. A batch, you got to bring it up to temperature, and it takes, when we make it, it takes a good hour and a half of cook time, just straight cooking, to boil off that water, reduce it down to make those the flavors more intense. And if you don't do the pectin just right, you'll get all for our pepper jelly, you'll get all the peppers floating at the top if it's not fully. I'm giving you all the secrets, everybody. That's the secret how to make a pepper jelly. You want to fully cook the peppers so it's evenly distributed. Yeah, and we use real big chunks of peppers. But I'll talk about that when the next pairing happens. But yeah, those are the questions about what is chutney, jelly, jams, preserves, pickles, relish. It goes on and on. Ooh, hot honey. Yep, that's a good one. That is actually our most recent creation. I know hot honey is cool and hip, and it's so good on pizza. This is a wild one. This is a real difficult one. It's our Preservation Society. We can't listen. We use good honey. We use True Source certified honey, which is really the whole world of honey. Don't get me started. It's again, bees make it. It's a really complicated global business, but we pay extra for the good True Source certified honey to make sure that it's ethical, and we know you can trace it back to where the source is, so it's not adulterated and whatnot. We basically steep a nice mix of peppers, and I'll tell you what they are. They are habanero peppers and bird's eye chilies. We think that's a nice mix, and you just steep it in there. It can get pretty darn hot, and again, it's great on pizza. This is it's hot. It is hot, but it's a real fun one to use. And actually, Michael, you were talking about the savory and applications. There's no real, with this one, there's no garlic, there's no onions. So I think it's great for less savory applications. So like ice cream, oh my gosh, vanilla ice cream, pancakes, I can't get enough of it like that. Honey, remember everybody, honey is, it's a natural product. It really is. And crystallization does happen. If you keep it in the fridge or it changes temperature, it's a very sensitive number. The This one here I've got is looking pretty good. There's a few little crystals, but that is a perfectly natural thing. And in fact, crystals are a sign of quality. Sometimes less good brands will, not brands, but just, or honey manufacturers will adulterate with water. It could sort of thin it out, and the water will make it less crystallized because it's thinner. But the concentrate, yeah, we make a regular honey as well in jars, and this one too. But the honey, when everyone says like it lasts forever, the pharaohs and the pyramids, there's still honey and it's still good. Yeah, I looked into that one. It is still good, I guess, but it's crystallized. It's like a block. There's like little honey dust in the middle of the pyramid. But anyway, what are we going to pair this one with, Michael, today?
Well, that's what I was, looking at. When we started talking about this, I was trying to think of some of the things that I do with them in a very simplistic way. Honey and goat cheese has gone together for a very long time. There's honey, goat cheese, and all the other different flavors in there. So I thought I'd keep it simple and add that into the Vermont Creamery, their fresh goat cheese. Nice. And, having something really fresh like that is, I think it adds kind of like a coolness to the honey. The hot honey. And then for a vehicle, I use the Effie's, their biscuits, because they're just so easy to work with, and the nice pecan flavor in there. And I was thinking about what I would do with them. And then I've used this, I had it out on the table, and I was having some fried chicken. And I have to say, that this and fried chicken is absolutely magnificent.
Yeah, you nailed it.
It's just so easy to add on there, but it just works so well.
Yeah, it's that contrast. I think you described it. It's about contrasting flavors. I mean, some people like to, I don't know, if they're pairing, you get a mammoth cheddar that's got some cranberries in it, and you add a cranberry. I don't know. There's no rules, I guess, but I like what you're doing, Michael. I like contrasting flavors.
Well, goat cheese by itself would be difficult to be able to handle, because then you'd end up having to try to pick up the little pieces. But goat cheese on a salad with a little bit of chicken, and then drizzle some of this on the salad is fantastic. A couple little nuts in there, some pecans, works out very, very well.
It's a good idea.
And when I was thinking about pairing this, typically what I'll do is I'll pick something that goes with each one. But as you know, I've been pairing these for a really long time, since you guys been around, since I've been working with you. So I've had a chance, and I looked at my database about what I've paired with it in there, and literally I've just had such a wide variety that I'm not looking at trying to do one with everything, because I found that the black lagers, they go across the board here because they work with savory, they work with sweet. It's got a little malty, but it's a lager, so it's got some lightness to it. And it helps out a little bit with a little bit of that heat. So I'm using 610, which is a local brewery here. And to be shameless, this is a collaborative effort that I brewed this with Chris.
Really?
And we actually won a gold medal at the Great American Beer Festival for it.
Did you? That's I love that can. That's awesome looking. That's a powerhouse can.
Yeah, well, now we're going to Crowlers, so we get 32 ounces of beer when you go pick them up. So, I get my own Idaho here.
Nice. 610. I love it. No, and it's so true. What we do here, and in this whole awful COVID era where it makes you see these few little small mercies and happy things that bring us joy. And I like eating cheese, chutney, and beer. I'm a beer guy. That's kind of what I just hanging out, talking to people, doing a little Zoom hangout, or if you're lucky, some of your inner circle to get together and family. And yeah, that's exactly what I like to do too. So that looks like a nice pairing with that beer.
Yesterday, I had some coffee porter, and I was thinking that would be really fun with it. But it just weighs you down. You know, you have so much great flavor with the honey and the spiciness of it, the heat. You know, to me, I'm not a ghost pepper guy or something there that just wants to get so much heat. I really like the flavor of the peppers. And I think that that's what you achieved here, is that I don't think you have to be afraid. And, you know, if you're somebody that's like, well, you know what, I don't really like the heat of that, the honey really tames the heat, but it also, you get a nice balance of the peppers, which is hard to do, because you think about it, it's like a lot of times when people are doing blendings, you have pepper or you have honey. Well, here you have them both with a nice, I'd say, a manageable heat. You know,
yeah, it's a trick, isn't it? Because, you know, every person's got different opinions of, you call that. I mean, I used to do, you know, doing demos with my other chutneys, and they're like, you call that hot? We'll see about that. I got the big 10-gallon hat. And then you have people saying, I gave them a mango chutney, and they go, you didn't tell me this was hot. And it's like, there is no hot, it's ginger. The ginger was knocking their heads off. They thought I'd dose them with something. So yeah, it is. Yeah, it's different kinds of it. But yeah, the habanero is a nice pepper. We use it with our hot peach and some different things. There's a fruitiness to it. It's hard to explain.
And that comes across in the honey. It's very, very nice, very pleasant. You know, and again, the goat cheese brings a nice balance to the coolness. Is you get that tang, you get that little bit of butter in there, and it works really well with it. And you know, if you were thinking of wine, I'd probably do like a Sauvignon Blanc, something like that, that could handle the sweetness of the honey. You know, you could do a Moscato, which would be a little more sweetness to it. Or if you like something sparkling, a little Prosecco would work really well. Be really fun.
I push Prosecco a lot. I think it's a fun. Again, it's a celebratory. I like celebratory beers, and like this is I know it sounds silly and dramatic, but I think what we're trying to do with this little niche of cheese compliments is they're like little celebrations of life, let's call it little reasons to sort of celebrate, hang out with people, or just give yourself a little treat. That's all. And Prosecco does that. It's good.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to say about the hot honey?
No. I think they were at a few select Earth fairs and they're at Meyer stores, but yeah, it's a fun one. That takes there's a lot to be done. I think hot honey is a trend that's going upwards, but we'll see. Okay. Good old fig spread. Okay, well, fig spread we like to call the again, this is the second time I've said quintessential cheese compliment. I think humans have been enjoying cheese with figs for quite literally thousands of years. And again, our fig spread, it's, you know, it's not too sweet is kind of our big selling point for that. Some can get, you know, ours is fig forward, not too sweet. We use Smyrna variety figs, which are nice. They're sort of brown. I think it's just a little touch of citric to give it the acid, but it's a pretty simple thing. But again, that's what we're doing here, isn't it? It's not about fig spreads to steal the show. No, fig spread on whatever cheese you want. It can go on. It's the universal donor. What is it? AB positive blood or something? It's the universal donor. I think it pairs with all cheeses really well. Yeah, and that's so it's a fun little character. You know, we've got these different preservation society. Each one's a different character, a different member of the society. But our fig spread is yeah, I'm proud of it, and it's everywhere. You can see our deli cup here. You can find that in some of the Stop and Shop Ahold stores. Yeah, in glass jars, but these plastic ones are really cool for the fig spread. It's a special BPA-free container. They're getting more popular in America now, but they're awesome. You can take them on a fishing trip, or, you know, it's not going to break, and you can click it back together really easily. So it's a value at 6.5 ounces. That's a lot of fig spread. What do you want to pair it with today, Michael?
Fig spread and brie has been around for a really long time. You know, I mean, that's basically, you know, what I've done, and it's always been recommended. So, you know, I'm going to stay with that because it works really well. Yeah. I love the tubs. You know, I mean, there's nothing against the jars and all that, but you really get to see the fig spread here. And I think that's really cool that, you know, when you're working with that, you really get to see in the jar. I mean, it's nice, but geez, look at this. This is beautiful.
It's a
So
lot
I'm
of
using
cool.
the Cowgirls. This is their Mount Tam, which is a triple
nice.
creme. And
Yeah.
because of the rind, it literally, you don't even need a wafer or a cracker with it. You can just slather this on and be really good.
Oh, man,
Now,
I'd love to have that.
I think that this is a great pairing. I mean, if you want to add a cracker to it, you know, the Effies, they do a great rye that I think really works well. And, you know, the rye working with the fig, I think is really kind of cool. And, you know, that's kind of a direction that I kind of like. But, you know,
Man,
slathering this on and, you know, works for me.
you know, you can't beat. I mean, we might talk about our crackers. We sort of have a guide to what we think a cheese plate should be. And if you don't have a brie type triple cream cheese on your cheese plate, come on, that's the best. That's the one that everyone gets excited about whenever I have little parties. And yeah, that Mount Tam is fantastic, isn't it? It's just a really deep, creamy taste to it. Yeah, that's fantastic. No, perfect.
Well, you know, as a kid growing up, Fig Newtons was one of my favorite things to have. And I think as an adult, you move past that. And so this is the best solution to a Fig Newton, is having the fig spread on a triple creme brie. You know, that's the most decadent. If you got to have that Fig Newtonish flavor, you know, that's where you add in a little bit of the Effies in there and get that. But honestly, I can't get enough of just the fig spread. And what I really love is that you don't have to be light on this. You can actually really slather this up because the full flavors of the fig, and I don't taste any sugar in here. I taste fig, like a real fig, and it's crunchy.
We made a point of that, actually. I appreciate you saying that, because yeah, I mean, figs are expensive. Sugar, yeah, it's cheaper to add more sugar than figs, but we think the ratio is, you know, is pretty good there. And you know, something like to pour brie, you know, pour the fig spread over the brie. It doesn't always look, it can look a little fun, but it's a nice way, you know, that way people could just take the knife and sort of, you know, help themselves a little bit that way. Or like you just did, just give yourself a little dollop and let people help themselves that way too. I'd love to.
I made like a cake out of it where I slice the brie in layers and then slather the fig spread in it and then put some Marcona almonds on it and then stack it up. And so you get like a 3-layer cake out of it. And you can easily do that, you know, with the Mount Tam being so thick, you could do at least 3 levels and just make this into a 3-level cake.
Layer cake. Good.
And of course the black lager with the maltiness and that freshness and the fig. This is just so easy, but it's just so delicious.
You gave yourself a pretty big slice there, Michael. That first one was you could help give yourself a good triangle there. Why not?
Well,
no, it's so good. You can't beat brie and fig spread. It's as simple as that. Okay.
And those that are a little afraid of the rind being intense, it is earthy. I mean, that's what you should expect from a brie. But the earthiness brings out more of the, I guess, natural flavors of the fig, you know, that has that earthiness itself, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine, the figs. And God, we could talk forever about figs, couldn't we? There's the earthiness. I know you mean there's a floralness, but there's an earthiness to the rind, and because you're cooking things down, and you know the figs, then often they're dried. Usually, we get them dry, and it's that sort of, as it gets concentrated, I think it gets that earthiness too. And
we were talking about utilizing the spreads with this, and this can cross over to. I honestly think about every type of cheese. This would work with Goudas. This works with Alpines. It works with Parmesan. It works with Blues. So, you know, this is a very universal spread that, you know, you get this and this can go everywhere.
and no one's going to be, it's universally appreciated, universal application. I think, I can't think of one either. Maybe the Parmesan Reggiano. I don't know. Like I said, but even then, I think it would still be nice. So,
Well,
right.
Since I have the wide variety, I'll continue to play with it because I love to try different things. Even though that I honestly believe that if you're going to do one, grab a Mount Tam, grab one of the Cowgirls, a triple creme. And I recommend the triple creme because it's got the butter that you really need with this to really bring out more of the fruit. A double creme is going to be really earthy, and I don't think it would be it'll be good, but I don't think it would be as rich that you get. This is really rich.
It's good. I know you don't have it, but mango chutney is I mentioned it before. Yeah, it's just the quintessential chutney. That's right. It's we use what do we use again? We use the Tommy Adkins and Kent is the variety of mangoes we use. There's some we get them from Florida, some from Mexico. We get a lot of them. We use minced ginger is really what you'll taste a lot of flavor from that because mangoes are, again, fruits are sweet. It's a sweet fruit, and so the ginger does. And you see a little tree there. That's our Virginia chutney tree. It's actually a dogwood, which is the state tree of Virginia. And of course, the mangoes in the tree. It's not real, but it's a little It's a imaginary mango tree, dogwood tree mix. Again, chutney. When you think of India, started the whole thing with that. I mentioned that chutney for curries. We don't talk about it much because we're trying to sort of be the cheese complement. But of course, curries, you can't beat that for mango chutney. Again, I would say a cheddar is great with this. I don't know what you got paired. Gouda. This is a pretty again. It can apply to a lot of things. But it's just a classic chutney. Major gray, ginger. We put a little bit of cinnamon and a little bit of cloves. Not much. A little bit goes a long way with that. And you just cook it down. That's the key. You cook it down to a nice reduction. Some brands, will sort of put thickener in there. We don't think there's a need for that with mango. You just got to take a little longer to cook it down. That's major gray. And there he is again. That's major gray in the background. Okay. What do you think we're going to pair with today, Michael? Oh, yeah, the cranberry. Okay, yeah. And so that's what cranberry and actually very similar. They both, you have ginger when we make it. The cranberry chutney. Again, it's a fruit. It's like the cranberry sauce you already know from Thanksgiving. That's going to be great. I'm glad you did it with the cheddar there. We put a little bit of orange zest in there, the apple cider vinegar. What else do we put in that one? But that's a great one for the holidays or anytime. And in a sandwich, that's great. A little turkey sandwich with a cranberry chutney. Good.
This is just over the top. The ginger in here is in the background, but the cranberry comes up with that tanginess, and then the ginger comes in. It's just so nice. I'm using the Sartori. This is the BellaVitano Parmesan. They're gold. It's such a great cheese for this spread. The mango or the chutney, both of these work really well with it. But what it really does to the cheese is that the Parmesan has got some nice butter to it. But when you put this chutney on it, it doubles the amount of butter that you get out of the cheese. You really taste that rich flavor, and it just works really well together.
No, I agree. It's in cranberries. I forgot. I was in Massachusetts on a trip to, I don't know what I was doing there, but basically I bought some cranberry juice, but it wasn't the regular cranberry juice that I'm used to, the cocktail mix, and it was just 100% cranberry juice. I tried to make it with a little cocktail in my hotel room, and I was like, "Oh, this stuff is so strong." mean, cranberries are tart. You know, they are so darn tart. That's why they really do lend themselves well to a chutney or a sauce. You know, sugar. We believe that sugar is perfectly fine in moderation, and I think the cranberries need a little sugar to chill out that tartness. And it's still pretty darn tart, but it really goes well with a cheese to sort of take it to balance it out there. So yeah, I think
I can see this with a cheddar as well. Or there's no reason why you couldn't do that. You could do this with a goat cheese. You know, cranberries and goat and through there, the Gouda. You know, this is another very universal spread depending on what you're in the mood for. It's to a point where the diversity that you have would really depend on what you're in the mood for. You don't have to say that, well, this only goes with Parmesan, this only goes with cheddar. If you're in the mood for cheddar and you want a little tanginess that you want to add to that with some sweetness and a little hint of ginger, this is magnificent. You know, you'll get people raving about the pairing with this. And, you know, I would, as a choice of additional pairing, I'd probably use the oat cakes on this because you want a little bit of sweetness on here. And with that Parmesan having that flavor, you can really build up on that and give it almost a pie-ish flavor. So very, and of course the black lager still works just fine with it, just chugging along with it.
That's so true. Good.
So anything else on the mango or cranberry chutney?
Just that, well, I'll say one thing. I'll say that I think that mango chutney might be, if you were talking to aliens and they said, what is planet Earth's favorite condiment? I suppose you could say ketchup, which arguably, by the way, is arguably a chutney. It was originally called tomato chutney hundreds of years ago. But I think mango chutney would be the planet Earth's condiment, because you've got India. People are loving mango chutney in India. You've got the Caribbean. People go nuts for mango chutney there. You got the American South loving mango chutney. You know, mango is a very Central America. It's a very England. They go nuts for mango chutney in England, and so it's a very. I think it's a multicultural. Everybody kind of likes it. Chutney and fruit generally. It's a beloved fruit. Spicy plum chutney. Look at that. Wonderful with cheese, we like to say. And there's that Sophie Award winner, which if you're an industry person, you know that's that fancy food show they do in New York City every year, except for this year, sadly. So yeah, this spicy plum chutney was one of our first ones. We originally were making it with damsons, which is a kind of plum. But sadly, the damson tree is a wimpy one, Michael. It, you know, a stiff wind and a blight, and they're practically dying left and right. So we went with mainstream plums. Again, lots of ginger in this, a lot of raisins, a little mix of brown sugar and regular sugar, apple cider vinegar that we get nearby in Winchester. And plums, they do come from the Willamette Valley. I think I'm saying that right, up in Oregon. And this is a chutney that, it was a big point for our business. You know, it's tough out there. You got to sell a lot of chutney to stay in business. And we were getting a little tuckered out by the whole process. We put, you know, time and money, a lot of time. We started, you know, in 2005. It was just slow going. But then we got nominated somehow for the Fancy Food Show Outstanding Condiment, and then we won it. And it was awesome. We got the Washington Post mentioned us in the paper. Anyway, it was just nice. And so we put that award on the label. And this is the chutney that people don't know what it is, so it doesn't always sell that well. But once people have tried it, it becomes their favorite chutney. Again, there's a lot of different ways you can pair on this one. Cheddars, Goudas are great. Brie, sandwiches. And again, charcuterie is great for this chutney. Again, a lot of ginger. And my wife gets annoyed when I say umami too much, but there is umami in this one. The plums, it's that plum skin is so rich. And again, when cooked down, there was a little bit of garlic in there too. This has got an umami flavor, I think. And for that reason, it goes for a lot of things. And again, we said pork loin as a glaze or on the side. And also salmon has sort of like a Japanese cuisine style. You can buy these this is a pretty popular one. It's Whole Foods. You can buy an Ahold, Harris Teeter, Central Market, I think. But yeah, what do you think, Michael?
Balanced, that you get that spiciness in here. And I think it's really interesting that when we talk about spicy, we're not talking about heat here. We're talking about, well, you know, that interesting combination of spice flavors. And I think
Right.
I think that's what a lot of times that was my impression of what a chutney was with all these spices to it. And this is Marieke's Gouda, which is a raw milk. And this little guy just happens to be aged for 2 years. Yeah. And I was very fortunate that Marieke sent me this, and I've been savoring and enjoying this very sparingly.
No, you're right. When the word spicy, we probably should have called it spiced instead of spicy. You know, how spicy is it? Not to sound jaded, but that is, I've been asked that question, not thousands, but hundreds of times. And yeah, but you're right. Most of the spice comes from like the spice. It's almost like those pickling kind of spices. It's got a touch of that. It does have a little bit of crushed pepper flakes. So there is a little bit of picante, pepper to it. But I think it's just, we put a lot of ginger. Ginger is really pretty expensive, and we're pretty heavy-handed with the ginger in this one. So I think, and that gives that spiciness quality that you're, and that refreshing. It's both cooked down as a reduction. Yeah, that one really is a reduction. I mean, it's a slow cook, that one. But again, the raisins, I think also, raisins are a popular chutney. You talk about like what the classic chutneys are. Raisins are a popular chutney ingredient. It's a way of getting the sweetness, and there's some natural pectins in the skins. And umami, he said.
Well, the Gouda has got a nice butter, maple, a little bit of caramel on here, a little hint of butterscotch.
That sounds nice.
It really brings out more of the plum flavors. It brings out some of the spiciness. And again, no heat as that I can detect at all. If you're looking for something a little bit more commercial, I would say that like a Beamster 18-month would work really well.
Yep. I know that exact one you're talking about. It's great. I like that one a lot. Like that Unicast stuff that you can sort of take a nice little sliver of. I think an aged Gouda is nice. I'm not too familiar with the fresh Goudas that you're talking. Or I guess it is aged Gouda. It's a raw 2 year. I like when they look kind of caramely colored Goudas. I like that, doing a little sliver, and that's how I like to use that plum.
Yeah, this is pretty decadent. It is a creamy version of an aged Gouda. Her Goudas are not the ones that you see where you need a hacksaw to get into it. This is very, very creamy for a 2-year-old, but it has every flavor that you want to have, and it works out so well. If I was going to add a biscuit to this, I would probably go with the corn. And I do a corn and kind of like chicken and spices that kind of resembles corn tortillas, even though that this is a biscuit and it has a little bit of sweetness to it. Well, with the Gouda, you really lose that, and you really pick up the corn, and I think it adds that vegetable element in the mix where the spices really pick that up. So you get a wide variety. This is really nice to have the balance of the spiciness, the ginger in here. The ginger compared to the the cranberry is much milder, but you can still pick that up in the end there, and that is really nice.
It's funny how certain fruits sort of stand out more, and you can other ones you mess them too much and they can just the actual flavor can be gone. Green tomato doesn't even taste like tomatoes when we use that one, and we have a watermelon. Well, good. I'm glad you like that one.
Yeah, I love that. That's one of my favorites. Use it all the time. So yeah.
Wow, there it is. Okay, that's a pretty good picture. You can sort of see in that picture actually there was a few little air bubbles. That happens when you whip things up. But again, this is a jelly. It's our jelly, so it's a jellified, which means things is a set. And you see that the chunks of peppers are evenly distributed. And in our little world, it's not rocket science, but it's a little harder than you might think. But this is our prettiest compliment, and it works really well when you pour it over something. Again, compared to other brands, we do put a lot of pepper solids. Sometimes you can the cheaper way of doing this would be to add, capsicum pepper powder, with some fructose corn syrup, whip it up, bam, distilled vinegar. But we use really chopped up peppers, and we use quite a few different ones. We use red bell peppers, green bell peppers. We use jalapeno peppers. Then we use habanero peppers and a little bit of crushed pepper flakes as well. So really, there's a lot of, as a percentage, it's quite a chunky little pepper jelly we pride ourselves on doing. But yeah, this is our best one. It's a classic Southern compliment. The classic way in the South is to pour over cream cheese. Which I know we're more into the artisanal, more complicated cheeses, but cream cheese is pretty darn good. I know you've used some bries. Again, I love it on brie, cheddar. I would not do it on a blue cheese. I don't know what you got next lined up. I would not do it on blue cheese, but other than that, anything that's sort of creamy, I put it on, and it'll look pretty if you pour it over the cheese. And these are sold pretty popular. We're launching in all the Kroger stores that have a cut and wrap station in the middle of August. And hope you all like it. Michael, what are we pairing this one with?
I'm going to go with an aged cheddar. So Wisconsin grading, aging and grading, they do a 724 Wisconsin Select line. And this is a 7-year-old.
7 years. I haven't even heard of anything even close to 7 years.
Oh, well, we did 11.
Whoa.
So, yeah. I did a thing with Joey Widner, and he sent me a 15-year cheddar. So I have that sitting in the refrigerator that is going to be for the weekend.
Nice.
Which probably will go with this. So I've always loved the interesting flavor because this does have some heat to it.
Each batch is different. You might need more of a knife there than a spoon, but you're doing well. I'm blown away by that. 7 years. Wow.
Yeah. And so the phenomena that you have with a cheddar is that if you have a mild cheddar, it takes away all of the heat from the peppers. But if you have an aged cheddar, you get some of the heat off of this. So you can manipulate the amount of heat that you want from this by adjusting or using a different cheddar.
I did not know that. I did not. That explains why there is a. Because I love the what's that, the good gosh, the Vermont, the big, what's it called, this Graft and the other one, anyway, yeah, a 2-year cheddar, Cabot cheddar. Yes. And you're right, it seems a little hotter compared to a younger cheddar.
Yeah, when you have that, when you look at a cheddar, a mild cheddar gives you the flavor of more sour cream, and as it ages it gets more of that lactic acid, which gives you more of the lemon lime flavor and tanginess. So the more tangy it is, the more it seems to reduce the intensity of the heat. So I was doing a CBS show, and the hostess, I was using a mild cheddar, and I had your pepper jelly on the show, and we had finished that, and she was like, oh, this is just the best thing ever. So I gave her a jar, and I gave her a pad of the cheddar. And next time that I was on, she was like, my daughter and I, we ate the entire pad of cheddar and the entire jar of pepper jelly.
We need more people like that. That's the spirit. You know, like you mentioned about the pepper variations, the cheese can make it seem hotter or less hot. You know, one thing, again, we're not like as big as Kraft. I mean, one of the things, we've got a simple technology, the big kettles. We check the pH and, you know, bricks a little bit. But, you know, pepper, you know, it's that Scoville units. You know, it's really hard to make a uniform pepper, you know, heat product. And so I tell you, we taste everything we make, obviously, but a pepper, the jalapeno pepper, I mean, some batches are just hotter. Have you had, I mean, one jalapeno, I could eat the whole thing like an apple, nothing. But the next one, it's like, this is, you know, hot. And with this, we got a mixture of these peppers. So you will see, I think we're pretty consistent in the product we make, but with the pepper jelly, you may occasionally find a batch and be like, this isn't that hot. And you may find one that's like, this is pretty hot. So that's just part of, that's what you get when you deal with a small company like us. And what are you going to do? You're going to, you know, the peppers, if it's a dry season, the peppers will seem hotter. If it's too much rain and the farmer produces it, then it's going to be less hot. But I think it's a fun little interesting thing about the nature of pepper. But yeah, you made a nice pairing there. But again, don't forget, you can just pour this thing. If you got guests, it's just a really attractive one to pour over a brie or something like that. And it looks decent. You can sort of get in there.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And it comes in, which I love, is the other pack that you have it in the tub.
Yes, it does. And that is, and it looks, you know, you can see a lot of little, you see all the little chunks there. Yeah, I like the 7 ounces. And again, this is pretty, I'm waiting, Mike, we need to get this everywhere because a lot of people don't quite get it yet, the tub. They think it's a little unusual, but really, I hope that this is the future of deli compliments, they say.
Well, I have to tell you that I like the tub better. I can get in and out. I can scoop big chunks of this. And, you know, as a single serving portion, you literally can just dunk the cheese into the jelly.
You're right. You can you can do that.
You can't do that in the jar. The jar's a little harder. Where that one is kind of like, you know, you're in an entertaining situation. And that's another thing, is being able to put cheeses all around that, and for people to be able to scoop up what they want through there. And I think it makes a really great presentation as well, because it's got such nice colors to it. And it again does very well across the board. I'd put this with the Gouda, I'd put this with the triple crème. You know, it goes across there. I think my favorite is the cheddars, for the fact that we get that phenomena of it cooling things off and heating stuff. And that's really entertaining to me. And when I build cheese boards, I really like to have 3 of the same style cheese, but like different ages, so you can really taste how they change with what you're working with.
That's a fun way people can experience the differences. Yeah, that's an interesting way of. I like that.
Well, you know, that's how you learn how the difference between wines, the difference between cheese,
like or something,
is by having the same style, but in different versions of that. So you understand it a little bit more.
For a pairing, pepper jelly, I say, I mean, you can go rosé, or again, a Prosecco would be a nice sort of celebratory, you know, I think it'd be a celebratory thing.
Yeah. I have in backup, I thought, well, you know, if I feel that the black lager isn't going to work with it after I taste it, then I'll switch out. But the black lager kind of follows along and just does really well with it, with all the spreads and chutneys and jellies. So very nice. So I have one last slide for you.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Your party crackers.
Oh, you're right. Now, these are not yet available in stores, but I'm glad. Let's check out the slide. I am very proud of these little party crackers. I guess just our fun characters, and that's my little advice on, like I say, you should have, have a crumbly, just sort of fun little tips on how to serve, don't slice cheddar, but crumble cheddar, or it depends again, what kind of cheddar, but I think rustic crumbles are nice. We like blue cheese, and there's a few little silly jokes in there about, little jokes about cheese and conversational starters, and even advice, Michael, on how to introduce people. I used to think I'm a pretty good party guy, but I've had a few parties, but do I really know how to introduce people perfectly? No, I think I could use a little work. And so we give a few little tips on how to do that. And sadly, of course, COVID's kind of cramping everyone's style with these parties, but I think a lot of people sell these like smaller parties when there's, if you have some really close friends that are in your sort of inner circle that you feel comfortable with, or just, a socially distant, in a backyard. This is a nice thing to do. Just a 6 to 8 person cheese plate. Can't wait to get back to it. But yeah, those crackers are just a good, multi-grain, little crispers. And again, the word you used earlier, Michael, was vehicle. Easy crackers, you're not the star of the show. You're just the vehicle to deliver the cheese. And the little compliment's not the star of the show either. It's just the little fun, little sweet thing on top. So there you go. Well, Michael, that was a lot of fun. We got one question and answer. Triple cream is my number one. I think say me too.
Yeah. So yeah, we didn't get any questions. We just got comments. So I was going to mention that to you, but
I rambled on for a long time, so I think I covered quite a bit there. But.
Yeah. I'm so glad that we've been working together for all these years, because you have enhanced a lot of the pairing presentations that I've been able to do, turn people on to flavors that they would never have tried on their own. And so I really appreciate the support that you've given me over the years. You without hesitation, shipped me jars and jars to be able to, sling them out with the stuff that I'm doing. And
well, thank you, but you're the educator. Thank you, but you're the educator who's just, this is still new stuff to a lot of people. I mean, we're in it, but it's a little weird. It's not just, it's a ham and cheese sandwich. No, it's a little bit of a twist, but I think people have a little confidence and they can start making their own pairings and make their own opinions. That's part of the fun.
Well, this beats fruit any day by a lot. And I think that for people that are entertaining, why go through all the trouble of going through that when you can open this up and get so much more flavor, so much more pairability to each of the cheeses. You're not going to get that with fruit. Fruit does work, but it's not going to be impressive like these are, where the flavors bring out the cheese. They're great compliments.
I mean, I love figs when they're at that peak of, they got to be just perfect, don't they, in terms of the ripeness? No one wants a squishy grape. They want that perfect grape. And if you do that, that's all good. But there's some consistency here that makes things easier. Well, Michael, I feel like having a beer. I've been watching you sip on a beer. I got to go get one now.
Yeah, it's that time. I appreciate the fact that I can drink at work, and I get to select what I get to drink at work. So it's kind of nice. But I want to tell you again how impressed I am with the quality, with the flavors, with the diversity of each of these, that there's something that we can do with each one, and it's just makes the cheese even better.
Elevating it, a little fun thing. Good, I agree.
All right, so you have anything else you want to leave us with?
No, I'd say chutney and cheese makes me weak at the knees of our taglines. Any fun taglines you can send it to us. But thanks for all the customers out there, and looking forward to doing more things like this, Michael. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. And, we'll round up around the holidays and do some boards together. How about that?
I'd love that. All right. Thanks, Michael.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
See you soon. All right. Bye-bye.